Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. For this one, I'm not going to give you a summary because the title says it all. This one's from user Boston Sexy La Throw, Massachusetts. Landlord wants to fine or evict me for being intimate with my partner in my apartment. Cites illegal activity. Does he technically have a case? So, bit of a weird one, so please bear with me. I rent an apartment from a man who lives down the street. It's a nice enough apartment, and up till now I've had very few issues. The problem is he's rather conservative and I'm rather gay. Once he found out that my boyfriend wasn't just a friend who spent a lot of time with me, he tried to bar him from coming over. I told him to pound sand, as it goes. Now he sent me a letter stating that effective immediately, there shall be a $250 fine every time I commit the sin of homosexuality in my apartment. If I refuse to sign the addendum, he claims he will file to evict me due to breach of the lease. Specifically, the clause that the premises shall not be used for illegal activity. He cites Massachusetts state code that criminalizes fornication, sex outside of marriage, and crimes against good nature, which he insists means homosexual relations. The statute does not define it any further. I looked them up and they are evidently real crimes. I know they're not enforceable by any stretch, but have I technically done illegal activity in my apartment? I really don't want to move early. Lease started in September, or have an eviction on my record. I know this seems absolutely silly, but the fact that they are still technically crimes in the book gives me a little pause. Do I need to take this seriously, or can I start coming up with more ways to say pound sand? What should I do if he does try to take further action? As you probably already know, I am not an expert on Massachusetts state law, so let's continue with the community comments to see what kind of advice OP got. Cromwell says, sexual orientation is a protected class under Massachusetts state anti-discrimination laws. You can contact the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination, MCAD, for assistance or to ask how to file a complaint. You have a letter from your landlord that says you are committing the sin of homosexuality. You pretty much have him dead to rights with direct evidence of housing discrimination, assuming there are no jurisdictional issues. MCAD should be able to assist with getting him to leave you alone, give you a decent settlement, or help you navigate the Massachusetts Attorney General's office to file a lawsuit. Again, assuming no jurisdictional issues, but MCAD will know those. Deleted says, seriously? The state with some of the most tenant-friendly laws in the country and the first state to legalize gay marriage? Yeah. Massachusetts has some silly old blue laws, none of which are enforceable. Tell him to pound gay sand. If he files a lawsuit against you, don't ignore it. Reach out to any of the many LGBT rights organizations that would love to represent you. Or call the American Civil Liberties Union. Those people have had a rough few years and could probably use a good laugh. Cat of Grey says, I would be prepared for your landlord to try to evict you for another reason. Document, save letters, keep a file of everything. Pay your rent by cashier's check or certified mail. Quote, now he sent me a letter stating that effective immediately there shall be a $250 fine every time I commit the sin of homosexuality in my apartment. End quote. That's awesome! So now, if you're accused of breaking the lease by having an unapproved roommate or sublet, you have that letter showing his intent to discriminate against you. Okay, so OP has gotten some really solid advice about what to do. Very clear too. So let's continue with the update to see how this matter was resolved. So first of all, I just wanted to say, wow. The amount of support I received, both in replies and in PMs, was absolutely amazing. Everything from fantastic advice to hilarious commentary. The person who said, sand is a weird name for a guy, had me in stitches. That said, I feel like people assumed a much worse picture of my landlord, people telling me to buy cameras, etc. He's a nice enough person, but has some very problematic views. He grew up in rural Arkansas, I think, that or Alabama, and came to Massachusetts later in life. This was his first time being a landlord, so he still had the idea in his head that it was his house, so to speak. That, coupled with the fact that up till now he'd avoided even talking with people who were openly gay, led to a lot of ignorance. I know some of you were hoping I'd screw him over for all he's worth or torment him with daily updates of my gay agenda, but alas, I decided to take the calmer approach, and it seemed to work. Yesterday, I sat down with him and first laid out the various information that you guys helped me find. Everything from sexual orientation being a protected class, treble damages, and the fact that those old laws are 100% completely unenforceable. He realized very quickly that he was in the wrong, and he has effed up bad. He also admitted that even though he didn't know what he defined as the sin of homosexuality or how he'd enforce the fine, he just knee-jerk reacted to the, to him, shocking news. We ended up chatting for about 2 hours then, and it started with me dispelling a lot of misconceptions about gays. Some of his notions were comically bad, like if I weren't having the conversation with him, I'd think he were a caricature. He's a lot older than me, and his kids recently moved across the country, and he was renting their house for him. So I think he had some notion of being a father figure to me and thinking he could lay down the law or set me straight. He seemed genuine and seemed to be legitimately concerned for me and my soul. I reminded him to hate the sin and not the sinner, and that seemed to resonate with him. He still doesn't agree with homosexuality or my lifestyle, but he's willing to accept it. He seemed to be earnestly trying, and in my mind that counts for a lot. He agreed to write both me and my boyfriend a letter of apology, which I will be keeping copies of in case this matter comes up again and needs to go to court. The past few days have been super stressful, but it seems to be resolved. If things go well, I might even potentially renew the lease come September. I'll still be on guard for any shenanigans, but I think I'll leave the issue where it lies for now. If this was all a ruse or him backpedaling, I'll go at him with everything I can in the future, but for now, I'm satisfied. I'm truly appreciative of all the people who offered advice and moral and immoral support in the original thread. Okay then, matter is solved for OP and he didn't take the legal route, he just went for a conversation and apparently he's comfortable with this. Hopefully the landlord got the point and will stop with all of his craziness. So that leaves the question, if you were OP, what would you have done? Let me know in the comment section. As for the rest of us, there's still some time left on the video, so I'm gonna squeeze in another post. This one's from user Really Effing Scared 9. Ohio. Someone is threatening to release nude photos of me that were taken when I was underage, and I'm terrified that I'll lose my job and be arrested for what is essentially child smut. Disclaimer, from here on out I will be using the term CP instead of child smut. When I was 14 or 15, I am now in my early 20s, I had a boyfriend who convinced me to give him nude photos. I wasn't thinking at the time that any nudes of me would essentially be CP, so I did it. In total, I think there were probably about 100 images or so and a couple of videos. He had them all on his computer. Most were taken by me and a few were taken by him. I know that he showed the pictures to some people when we broke up, like had the people over to his house and pulled up the photos on his computer. I didn't know he actually sent them to anyone, which was crappy of him to do, but I asked his sister to delete the photos and she did. I then forgot all about it. It was so long ago that until very recently, I barely even remembered it happened. I don't want to give any identifying information out, but within the last year, I have gained a few 100,000 followers on a social media platform. I make money from that social media platform and from partnerships I got through it, and it's now how I support myself. Yesterday, a guy I went to school with, who I didn't even realize was friends with my ex-boyfriend, contacted me and told me that he had those nude photos and he would post them online if I didn't pay him $10,000. I do not know how he got them, but I know for a fact he does have them. All or most of them from what I can tell, and the videos too. My reputation would be completely ruined by this. I would lose followers and I know the partnerships I have would end, and this is how I make my living, so that would be a huge blow. Not to mention, I'm absolutely terrified I'll be arrested for taking photos that are pretty much CP. If they were taken while I was over 18, I would go to the police for him blackmailing me. But if I do that now, I'll essentially be admitting that I took part in CP. I should have known that my ex-boyfriend could have sent them somewhere else before his sister deleted them from his computer. But I just wasn't thinking at the time, and I definitely didn't realize it would come back to bite me in this way. I can't afford to send this guy $10,000, but I know if I do, this probably won't be the only time he asks for money, and I can't really do it more than once, and my reputation will be completely annihilated if he releases these photos. I don't know what to do here, and I'm freaking out really badly. Can anyone help me or give me advice? Should I go get a lawyer? So OP is in a very difficult position, being blackmailed with pictures that she took herself from when she was underage. So before we move on, I've got a question. Do you think it was CP if OP was the one that took the pictures and she was underage when she did this? So while you think about that or post it in the comment section, let's continue with the community comments to see what kind of advice OP got. Deleted says, quote, I can afford to send this guy $10,000, end quote. If you give him money, he will never go away. Your nudes will not evaporate from his CPU upon payment. Soccer Namlak says, keep any texts or messages from that guy. Go get a lawyer. Follow their advice. They'll be able to provide best way to contact authorities about that guy while mitigating risk for any legal or criminal fallback on you. Reddit Dawson says, call the police. Tell them you know someone who is in possession of CP and is attempting to extort you. OP responds, but I am the one who took the photos. Doesn't that make me just as guilty? Agast Cornichon says, it is very, very uncommon for an underage girl to be prosecuted for production of CP that are pictures of herself. Is that a double standard? Sure. Your antagonist cannot go through with this extortion plan unless he wants to guarantee that he will go to federal prison for a minimum of 5 years. Well, what this last commenter said is actually very true. The guy who's trying to extort OP is in possession of CP. Now, I'm guessing he did send some proof to OP, some pictures or something to prove that he has them, so maybe that counts as distribution. I don't think if she's the one that took the pictures makes her guilty. I mean, I don't know, but I wouldn't think so. So now, let's continue with the update to see how this story ended. So, as the title states, last year I was dealing with blackmail from someone who got a hold of nudes from me when I was 14 or 15. I thought I would update now that it's come to a resolution. I went to see a lawyer the day after I made that post. He drafted a letter formally telling the guy to F off and was very kind in assuring me that I had nothing to worry about. It was radio silence from the guy for about 6 months. Then I got an email from another address with the same demand, saying that the money needed to be sent in 24 hours or the pictures would go live. I panicked and called my lawyer, asking him to meet me at the police station. He was really understanding, literally left his daughter's birthday party to come help me, and when we got there, we met with a detective who was also really nice and heard me out. Long story short, we found out that the guy blackmailing me was actually, drumroll please, my ex-boyfriend masquerading as someone else. He was arrested and it was also discovered that he had broken into my apartment on a few occasions. He had things in his possession that he could only have gotten by getting into my residence. I wasn't the only one who was being stalked, and they also discovered other illegal activity that I wasn't really allowed to know about. Anyway, my ex was just sentenced a few days ago and he won't be getting out anytime soon. Plus, I'm getting married in a few months and I'll be moving to another state far away from my ex. So I thought I'd update here with the good news. I was afraid that I'd be arrested and lose everything, but thanks to you guys, I got up the courage to deal with the situation. I really appreciate the advice I got here. Thank you again so much. Alright, good for you OP, you deal with that scumbag and he went to prison, so that's fantastic. And you didn't just get yourself out of a bind, apparently a lot of other people that were getting stalked are also going to be safer now. So good for you, OP. And so we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you guys liked it. If you did, go ahead and click like. Of course, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Also, here are more videos from my channel that you might enjoy. And having said all that, I will see you guys on the next video.